had the perfect plan. A strategy for my health, my business, my content, my morning routine. I had thousands of screenshots, saved posts, stacked podcasts. And at some point, the information stopped helping. It just became noise. So many voices in my head, I couldn't find my own underneath them. And the strangest part, I kept thinking the solution was more. One more podcast, one more framework, one more saved post. As if the answer to drowning in noise was more noise. So I stopped, not dramatically or with some big declaration. I just closed my laptop. I gathered all my plans and I decided I was done. And in the quiet that followed, something found me. A story. I picked up my favorite childhood book about a fairy queen who loses her home under a tree. And I disappeared into it, not to learn, just to feel something again. And when I finished, I felt this pull toward the forest. I laced up my boots and walked out. And there, in the silence of the trees, I remembered something I'd been running from for years. How to just be, without the noise, without the plan. Just me and the earth, and nothing to fix. And I realized I didn't need another strategy. I needed to come back to life first. What I've learned since that moment is that the way back wasn't through adding more. It was emptying out everything that wasn't mine and letting my own life rush back in. These are 6 things that helped me do that, and they might not be what the internet usually tells you. They might sound almost too simple, but each one is a way of making space. And what fills that space is you. The first thing I did was look at who I was letting into my world every single day. On Instagram, podcasts, newsletters, accounts I'd followed 3 years ago that no longer had anything to do with who I was becoming. There's a difference between content that stretches, expands you, and content that shrinks you. Both can feel uncomfortable, but one leaves you thinking and the other leaves you feeling heavy. And your body knows the difference. So I went through my follow list and unfollowed anyone who was making me feel less. Not because they were bad, but because I was too raw not to absorb it. And others because we change and what inspires us changes. I unsubscribed from newsletters that were using urgency and a language that felt designed to making me feel like I wasn't enough unless I owned their product. I cleared my digital space like I'd clean a room I couldn't breathe in. Maybe give it a try. Go through your follow list and ask yourself, does this expand me or does it make me feel heavy? Feel like less? And once the noise was gone, I noticed something. I had no one left who actually inspired me. My whole feed had been full, but nothing in it was feeding me. So I went looking for deeper, for long-form content, YouTube channels where you actually learn something, or Substacks where people think out loud. I found 3 or 4 voices that genuinely changed how I see the world. This part isn't something you finish in an afternoon. It unfolds, one voice at a time. A book mentioned in a podcast leads to another author, which leads to Substack, which leads to an entirely new way of thinking you'd never encountered. There's a difference between curating your feed and stepping away from it entirely. The declutter helped, but the real shift happened when I put my phone in a drawer and I didn't touch it. When I wasn't scrolling, my thoughts were coming back. I'd have my own ideas in walks, in showers, in moments where I allowed space. And then I'd go online and suddenly I'd want to be doing what they're doing. I'm beginning to think that short form content, the overconsumption of it, doesn't just distract you. It replaces your own voice with noise. When my 7-day phone detox ended, I didn't want to go back. I felt almost physically repulsed by the thought of being available 24/7, of scrolling on Instagram, of just being online. I did return to my phone, but using it very intentionally, mostly consuming long form content and creating from my heart, not what the world was telling me to create from trends. And I know 7 days is a lot. If that feels impossible right now, maybe start with an app that blocks social media for a certain time of the day. You don't have to rely on willpower alone. And then maybe expand it to a full day. Be gentle with yourself. The point is not to punish yourself for scrolling. It's about giving your own voice a chance to come back. And it just needs some space. This one sounds small, but your space is talking to you all the time. When your room is cluttered, your mind is cluttered. Your nervous system is literally responding to all the unfinished things in your peripheral vision. Every stack of papers, every drawer that you can't close properly, it's a tiny open loop that your brain is trying to hold. And it's exhausting, even when you're not looking at it. You don't need to declutter your whole life. Start with one surface, your desk, your bedside table, just one space that, when you look at it, lets your eyes rest. Make it feel like it belongs to the version of you that's coming, not the version that's stuck. So now we've made some space. The noise is quieter, the surfaces are clearer, and I found that when I stopped filling every corner of my life with other people's ideas, my own life started to come back. Slowly, gently, like it had been waiting. The first thing that came back when I'd made some space was that favorite childhood story, Potilla. And when I disappeared into it, something woke up. A part of me that had gone quiet, the part that believes in magic, that sees the beauty in ordinary things, that feels deeply. We've turned everything, even reading, into a productivity tool. We feel guilty for picking up a novel because we should be reading business strategy or self-help books. We track what we read every year like it's a KPI. So how about you pick up a book that has nothing to do with self-improvement? A novel, your favorite childhood story, something that makes you forget what time is, not to learn, but to come alive. Don't track it, don't add it to a list, just read and allow yourself to feel something. And I still read biographies or self-improvement books, but I'm grabbing the book that lights something up in me, that sparks something, and not what my brain is arguing that I should be reading. The books pulled me toward the trees, and the trees brought me to my body. When you're stuck, you're almost always stuck in your head, looping, planning, worrying. Walking moves you back into your body, wakes up your senses, and your body is where your answers actually live. Walking to me was more than a tool. I wasn't counting steps or walking to exercise. It was the feeling of the earth beneath my feet, the feeling of I belong here, through which I found myself again. Walk without a podcast or music, just you and whatever is around you. The key is no input, to allow your thoughts to surface instead of filling the space with someone else's. And you don't need a forest, a park or a river or just a street with trees. A space to just be. Just like with books, I had stopped doing things just because they made me happy. Everything had to lead somewhere, be productive, build toward a goal. Even rest became strategic, like rest now so you can be more productive tomorrow. As if joy without purpose wasn't allowed. I sat with a simple question. What made 10-year-old me lose track of time? And then I asked, how much of that was I doing now? And the answer broke my heart a little, but it also showed me exactly where to start. For some of you, this might be easy. You'll sit down and the memories will come flooding back. But for others, and I was one of them, there might just be a blank. And that's okay. It might just mean that you've been living on someone else's terms for so long that the little girl or boy inside of you who used to lose track of time feels like a stranger. Be patient with her. She or he is still in there. Start with the simplest question. What did I do when no one was watching? What did I do for hours and forget the time? Or what did I love before anyone told me what I should love instead? And if no specific thing comes, start with the feeling. What was the feeling that brought you the most joy, free, absorbed? And what could you do today that might bring you that same feeling? Start there and explore. It might lead you somewhere entirely new. For me, the answers came slowly. The forest, baking, especially building with my hands. Things I'd once dismissed, but they came back different. Not as hobbies I'd outgrown, as the things that make my adult life feel like mine. Baking isn't just food, it's how I care for myself on a slow morning. The journal I write in sits inside a leather cover that I stitched myself. These things don't look impressive, but they feel like me. And that's worth more than any strategy I ever downloaded. And this isn't about adding a new habit. It's about remembering who we were before the world told us who to be. And there's something quietly radical about that. The things that made me happy at 11 or a newer version of those things are allowed to make me happy at 30. I don't have to outgrow joy. None of these are complicated, but I've come to realize that so often the answer is in simplicity. I spent years looking for the complicated answer, and what actually brought me back to life was a walk in the forest and a children's book. If you're stuck right now, maybe the answer isn't in more information. Maybe you're not missing something. Maybe you're just carrying too much of what isn't yours. The first step isn't to do more. It's to make space and then to trust what fills that space. That's how it started for me. I created a journaling prompt that takes you deeper into this, not just childhood joy, but what makes you feel most alive and where you feel most like yourself. It's free, and the link is in the description box below.